Hi everyone, this is Kim Snyder with Train and Simple, and this is the second in what I hope is going to be an ongoing series of screencasts that I'm going to be doing for you. What I would like to do today is tackle an issue that came up in the ICC, or Infusionsoft Certified Consultant Facebook group, which for those of you who are not ICCs is a Facebook group where um, the ICCs trade ideas and help each other solve problems and converse with Infusionsoft staff. And so anyway, this issue came up uh, last week, and the question was, uh, is there a way to automatically, without API, you'll notice, keyword, slot the date of purchase in a custom date field? Thanks. And the person who posted this question got all kinds of answers. You can see one person said that you can put that in a custom date field as a hidden field on the shopping cart order form and then have some JavaScript to fill in the date. Someone else gave her the JavaScript. And then someone else said, can't you do this with plus this, which plus this is an add-on from 6th Division. And all those are great, except the original premise was without API, and the irony of that is that actually with the API, this is just dead simple. So what I thought I would do is show you how to do it with the API, so that you could see what that would look like. So that's what we're going to do. I actually use this exact thing in almost every campaign that I create, because I always mark new prospects as they come into my app for the first time as being in a what we call a class of, so I can anyway. And I typically put that in either a custom field or in the anniversary field, sometimes both. So here's a script that we use. And before I take you through the script, let me just show you what this looks like in Infusionsoft here. So y'all don't want to see that. So let's log in to Infusionsoft. Sorry, I should have done that before I started the tape rolling, but here we go. Okay, so this is my application. So I'll just give you an example, one example. If I go to campaigns, view campaigns, Train and Simple version 1, and I go into this campaign. So typically, a lot of times I would put this further up, and sometimes I'll put it in multiple places, but here's where I know it is. So right after someone registers for the webinar, which by the way, I hope you do. The introductory webinars that we do are free, and I do 2 per month on the API, intro to API webinars at trainandsimple.com. But anyway, so here, when you go into the sequence, right? So they register for a webinar, that's the goal, and then there's a sequence following it called get the lead to the webinar. Um, Among other things, we apply a tag, and then we run 2 scripts. The first one is cap first name, which I always run, and what that does is that properly capitalizes the first name in case they put it in all caps or all lowercase or a mixture. And then I have another script called set class of, and I always run those after someone comes into the funnel. So if I look at set class of, the way that you do this is very, very simple. There's a URL, and that URL for this particular script is trainandsimple.com/script/slash setclassoftoday.php, which is where that script lives. I pass the contact ID to the script. That's what this name value pair does. And then the script executes. So let's go take a look at that script and see how we would do this. So I'm going to get rid of this for a second. So this is a copy. It's almost identical to the script that that I run there. I've called this set custom field, but they're almost identical. So let's just go through this script and let's solve this problem about how to set a date on a custom field, just like the question. So I'm going to comment this script since I already have it written. Normally I'd write it for you as we go, but this one's already written and then we'll add to it. So what we're going to do first is we're going to, whoops, not configure, but rather connect to the Infusionsoft API. That is what this chunk of code right here does. So this is really just copy and paste. Okay, so the first 3 lines are something that you would be putting in every script that you write, and this is what gets you connected to the API. So then what comes next? Okay, well, the next thing I'm going to do here is this line number 11 is in PHP, a variable is always preceded by a $sign. So date field name is a variable, and I am assigning to that variable this field name. So what I'm saying here is I'm taking the field name in the API where I want to post the date. And let me just show you this really quickly. If I go to app settings, so if I go to here, admin, settings, and then I say set up custom fields for contact, and then make this a little bigger, and then I say view the field database names for the API. I have a field down here at the bottom set up called, I thought it was at the bottom, here, class of, okay, which is where I always put my, that's the date that someone first comes into my funnel. Okay, it's a date field, and its database name is class of 0, like this. So, back to our script. When you are using a database field, a custom field rather, in a script, you always precede it with an underscore. By the way, hint, hint, that's one of those little things that they really don't tell you, that you got to figure out yourself. What distinguishes a custom field from an Infusionsoft field in these scripts is that the custom fields have a dash in front of them. Without it, they don't work. So here's my class of 0 underscore. And what I'm doing is I'm assigning that to the variable date field name. So what this is doing is it's saying what field do you want to put the date in, okay? And in fact, I'll even just say what custom field do you want to put the date in, right? Assign that to the variable, and the variable is this one. Okay, so that's what we're doing there. Now, the next thing we're going to do is another variable, contact ID, which should be very familiar. Now, remember I said to you that we're going to post over here, okay? We're going to do a post, and in that post, we're going to pass to the script the contact ID, which is right here. Well, what this does, this $sign underscore post ID. This is a global post variable, okay? And what we're saying is we want that formatted as an integer. That's what that does. And we're going to put it in the variable. And just so you understand what a variable is like a container. It's like a Tupperware that holds something. That's what a variable is. Okay, so we're storing in our little Tupperware labeled contact ID the Infusionsoft contact ID, right? So what we're doing here is get the post data for contact ID. All right, so that comes next. And then the next thing I'm doing is I'm going to store in yet another little Tupperware container today's current date. I'm going to put it in a certain format. Current date in YMD format. Okay, so let me just show you this. So here, what we have in this Tupperware is date, open and close parentheses, and in those parentheses, whoops, you see this format. And one of the things when you're learning PHP, or even when you know a little PHP like I do, at my stage, I look things up constantly. And one of the very best references that you have is the official PHP website. PHP.net has excellent documentation. There's another one that I use as well, by the way, that you might want to bookmark called DocHub. DocHub, if you've never seen it, has not only PHP, which is here, but it also CSS, HTML, JavaScript, DOM, jQuery, and Python. So anything you could want to know, so if you can't remember the syntax for background size in CSS, or whatever, HTML, JavaScript, etc. They're all here, including PHP. And so the date function, okay, is one that I use here, date, right? And here's your description of the date function. This basically mimics to a large extent what's here on the PHP website. But anyway, so that's string to time. So we'll look here at date. So what you'll notice is that date, okay, has, this is check date. I don't want check date. I want date. There we go. Okay, that looks better. So here we go. You've got a string called date, and inside you've got two parameters that you pass to date. One is what format do you want it in, and then the other is the timestamp. So those little Y's and D's and all that, let me show them to you again. Okay, this capital Y, lowercase m-d. If you look that up, well, here's the lowercase d. It's the day of the month, 2 digits with leading zeros. Here is going to be your m, lowercase m, numeric representation of a month with leading zeros. And then when we find the capital Y, it's a full numeric representation of a year with 4 digits. Okay, so what we told it here is we want 2013, all 4 digits, 06/29, which is today's date. And then here, similarly, we want the TH, I, and S refer to the time stamp. So here you go, capital, there's the H is the 24-hour format. The capital T down here is a time zone abbreviation. And then you got the H, Lord, 12 hour, you got the hours, the minutes, which is the I, and the seconds. Right, so basically what that did, and then these are always great because they give you all kinds of examples. And what you do half the time is you just like cut and paste these examples and then change them to fit what you need, right? So here's all kinds of examples of ways that you can format dates. So what we've got in here is we've got the current date, today's date, this exact minute and second, formatted here in this Tupperware. Okay, guys, hopefully with me so far. All right, so far we've been declaring variables, and we've got another one. to do. So what comes next is now we're getting ready to now go to the Infusionsoft database and pull um, the what is in class of 0. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I need to know if there's already something in there before I write something to it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to create a variable called return fields, and the fields that I want back from the Infusionsoft um, is the date field name, right, which I've already said is class of 0, right? So I could have also written this if I chose to. I used a variable, but I could have, if I chose to, have written this way as well. So what it said is, give me back, return, I'm going to query Infusionsoft using the contact ID, and for that contact ID, give me back whatever is in class of 0. All right, or in the variable date field name. All right, and then we have this other variable, contacts equal app. Okay, and that app refers to this, my connection to Infusionsoft right there. Okay, give me app, and then the data service is data service. The method, the API method, is called dsload. So again, let's go look at some stuff so you can see when you're doing all this stuff, you just really, you don't have to remember a lot. You really, half of the battle is knowing where to go find this stuff. And when it comes to the API, where you go find it is at help.infusionsoft.com under developers. You'll notice here you've got the API services and methods, and you've got the tables. All right. So we're going to be working with the contact table, and the API services and methods tell us all the different ways we can talk to those tables. We've got affiliate service, contact service, data service, email service, file service, funnel service, etc. Okay, well, because we're querying the database, we're going to be using the data service. And specifically, what we're going to be using is something called load. And what it does is that just takes the information from the database and sticks it in our variable. It loads it in a variable. Okay, data service load. And you always here can get an example, right, of the SDK right here. This is the one that you're going to always copy and use. Now look, if I copy this, interestingly, this little example out of the Infusionsoft, I want you to notice something. Okay, I'm going to paste it in right here for the moment. Okay, notice that this looks suspiciously similar to what I've got here. And that's because at some point in time, I started by copying it from the documentation. I've since changed it. I've changed some of the variable names and so forth, but basically, right, that's where I got this from. Just easy copy and paste, and then change it a little bit. Okay, so I've got contacts. I'm going to load from the contact table for contact ID, for this contact ID that we're going to pass it, what is in class of 0. That's what that's doing. Okay? And just for fun, let's do this. So let's put, just so you can see how this works, let's put an echo statement in here, and let's say that we want to echo. Now, echo means print. So let's see. Yeah. So let's echo contacts, and because this is an array, we're going to say we are going to say contacts I do this? Okay. So this is part of, um, I think I might have to put the field name in there, but I'm not sure. Um, we'll try it. This is kind of part of the how you learn um, PHP. Because even when you know the answer, if you a lot of times like you knew it yesterday, and then but when you're new, when this is all new, then you kind of forget. Can I do that? And how did I do that? So what I'm saying is this is an array. An array means it holds multiple values. So I'm saying I want to print out one of the values in that array, contact ID. Um, there's really an easier way to do that, which is a var dump. Um, but let's just see what happens if I do that. And then what I'm going to do, just for fun, is I'm gonna comment this out. Okay, so just so you know, there's a couple ways to comment in PHP. If you want to comment out multiple lines, it's this. This is start and this is where it ends. If you just want to do one line, it's these two slashes here. So let's do this. For fun, let's save this to the server. You know what else I'm going to do? Let's just hard code in a value. So let's go find a person like me. All right, and okay. So I'm ID 11, and in my field, which is class of, you can see I have today's date already. Actually, today's date 2014. Okay, so so I should be able to echo back this. So let's do this in our script, okay? And I'm doing this mainly, well, because this is part of how you write scripts when you aren't super coder, like some of the other people in, ICC land. Um, you know, you try things, you echo things, you copy and paste lots of things. It's actually kind of fun. It's a little bit like a puzzle. So, and you see if they work. And then when they do work, it's really, really exciting. So what I'm going to do here is see where I have this contact ID. I'm going to comment out that for a second. And then what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to hard code a contact ID like this. Contact ID equals 11. I don't think I have to. I think I can just do it like that. Can I? Or do I have to have quotes around it? We'll find out. I think I can just do it like that. Okay, so I'm going to set the contact for the moment, just because we're trying things, and I don't want to have to pass it a form or whatever. So I'm gonna say contact ID is 11, and then I'm gonna try to get from Infusionsoft for contact ID 11, which is me, what is in that class 0. Class of 0. And the way I'm going to do that, because I don't have to pass it anything because I've hard coded the post value, the contact ID value, all I have to do now is go to a browser and say trainandsimple.com/scripts, which is where this lives. And let me show you this, scripts. So at the same time I can look at, it's called set custom field. So here it is right here in camel case, set custom field. Is this where I put it? Yep. Okay, so set custom field dot php. When I hit enter, okay, now interesting. So I got a blank, I didn't get an error, but I didn't get an echo either. Okay. So let's fix my echo here. So did not like this. So let's try something else. So hopefully this is going to work. So now what I'm doing is I'm saying echo pre, which is HTML, and then I want to print are this contacts. Oops, which I totally misspelled. Okay, and let's see if that doesn't work. So now when I say, here we go, refresh, there, perfect. It worked. So that much of it anyway. So what we just did is we dumped to the screen the value in that array which said class of 0, and here's our stamp that we remember it was year, month, date, and then the time was hours, minutes, and seconds. So this is the value that it found in the record for number 11, which is me, 629 2014, which is exactly correct, 2014 0629. Okay, so we're making progress. And this is how you do it. By the way, little baby steps, and then echo or however you need to do to check and make sure that what you've done so far is working. So what I've just done is I've confirmed that I am able to load from Infusionsoft um, the class of. Okay, so now I'm going to take this out after it took me so long to find it. Okay. So what did we just do here? We load the value of or in class of for this contact. That's what we just did there. And we just loaded it in that variable. Now, what we're about to do now is I'm going to take this comment thing out. Now, what this says is, in plain English, if there is, well, I'll write it this way. If class of is empty, then set it to today's date. Okay, so how did we do that? We said if is set, and then we said this was, oh, see, I could have just echoed this. I could have copied it and I'd have gotten to the same place. But anyway, whatever. Now you saw printar. So if contacts class of, the class of field in contacts is false, okay, meaning is set is false, which means it's empty, okay, sorry, yes, is empty, then what we want to do is now we want to set that date field name up here, class of 0, to today's date, and then we're going to do another API call, which is right here. Okay, this API call, instead of data service load, is update contact. So the way I update a contact is I feed it the contact ID and an array containing the field name and the data that I want to put in it, which is this up above, which is I want to put current date in class of 0. That's what that's saying, and I want to update contact 11 with that. Okay, so let's try this out. Okay, number one, I'm going to hit save, and then number two, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my record 620, and I'm going to make class of empty. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Class of is now empty. Where'd it go? Class of, there it is. Okay, and then for this contact, I'm gonna post to this script. Now, normally I would do that in a campaign, but for testing purposes, I can do it like this. I can go down here to select an action, and I can say, remember I'm in a contact record, and I can say apply actions, and then for apply actions I can say send an HTTP post to another server, and then I can just type in that same URL that I had before, which rather than typing it all out, I'm just going to copy it from right here and stick it in there, except I've lost my box. Should be this one. Nope, not that one. Hang on. Should be this one. Come back. Okay, so let's just put our URL here and hit save. So now we're going to send this HTTP post to this URL for this contact, which is ID 11. I'm going to say apply actions to Kim Snyder. Result is null, and the reason is we didn't echo anything, so there's nothing going to print out here. But what we're going to see now, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go to my record, and now I'm going to go to custom fields, and what we're going to see is that class of has now been set to today's date, 6/29/2013, which is what we were trying to do. So anytime that HTTP post gets sent to that URL, okay, for that contact, it's going to put class of, it's going to put 6/29/2013 or any other date that we had coded in here, but we happen to choose today's date into this custom field. Now, let's take this, so let's take a look at this again. Okay, this is our finished script so far. All right, now let's take this just one more step further, because in the ICC forum, someone said, I won't name names for the video, now interestingly, they were talking about, that there are different ways to do this, one of which is an add-on. And I love this add-on. I'm actually a subscriber to it. I use it for a number of things, like sending text messages and stuff. But for $99 a month to be able to set a date when you can, $99 a month, you could learn some tiny little bit of API and save yourself $99 a month. Anyway, so let's see. So where was the question? Oh, here it is. So someone says, we just had a client get that add-on to use it for adding a year to the date of purchase. In other words, incrementing the year of purchase by a year. What I can't figure is how to get it to add another year when the annual subscription charges their credit card each year. So if we were doing this, what we would do is we would, every time as a purchase action, right, every time that the credit card is charged, if we wanted to increment this date by one, because let's say I've already purchased, you saw that, I've already got today's date in there, so let's say a year goes by and I want to solve that problem for her. How do I do that? Well, I'm just going to add a little bit more code to this script, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to add an else here. So if class of 0 is empty, do this, else, meaning it's not empty, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's say we're going to make, we're just going to basically copy what we had here, but we're going to change it up. So let's make the variable condat array. Now, this time, what we're going to do is I'm just going to copy this. This will just be faster. Okay. So, this time, what we're going to do is we're going to, instead of putting in here the current date, I'm going to put in here next year. Okay? And so that means I've got to define next year somewhere. Alright, well let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to add this here. And I actually could have written this in a different way, but that's alright. Note, because you know what, I am going to write this a different way. One of the and I'm like a baby programmer, right? Compared to a lot of people. However, I've tried to be a good programmer, and one of the cardinal rules of programming is you never repeat yourself. Well, right here, I just repeated myself. This and this are identical, which means that I should try to combine them somehow. So I'm going to do that. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take these out of this if-else statement. I'm going to put it below that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say like this. Okay, so what I'm saying here is if class of 0 is empty, then what we want to put in class of 0 is the current date. Otherwise, meaning it's non-empty, we want to put in class of 0 next year's date. In other words, a year from now. And then regardless of which one we put in there, that's what we're going to update the contact record with, one or the other. Okay, so see how we just took out a line of code to keep that clean. So, but what's missing is next year. How do we define next year? So I'm going to actually, it's going to be something like this. Okay. You guys ready? So let's do this. Let's call this something else. Okay. So date is going to be what? Wrong place. We got to put this after we load this. Okay. New date is going to be string to time, and it's not going to be February 22nd. It's going to be in this string, we're going to put this. Okay, check this out. Okay, so we're going to call new date. Now we're going to call this class of. Okay, which is that. Perfect. String to time. So, alright, I'll explain this to you guys in just a second. And then we're going to echo date. That's not what I want. I want this I want this format like this. With string to time plus 1 year for class of. Add 1 year to class of. And then I'm going to make that put this down here. Alright, and we're going to, for the moment, skip the update part because we're going to see if this works. Okay, cool. Here's where we're, okay, so here's what we did. Alright, we said, here's what we added. We said we've got our contact ID equals 11. Oh, you know what? Let's take this out too because we've been doing this different. Okay, so our contact ID is whatever gets sent in the post. The current date is right now in this format. Alright, then we go and we load from Infusionsoft whatever value is in class of. That's what this does. Alright, and we store that in a variable called contacts. And then what we say is if class of is empty, then we're going to set it to current date. Now, here's where we get to our increment. Then what I say, okay, but if it's not empty, we're going to set a variable called class of to whatever was in class of. Okay? And then what we're going to do with that for the moment is we're going to just echo it out. And what we're going to echo is a date function that, again, is formatted in that year, month, day, time format. String to time, add a year to class of. So for the moment, we're going to echo it, and if it works, then we're going to put it in a variable and use that to update the contact record. So let's try that. I think I've already saved it, but I'm going to save it again. So let's, okay, actually I am going to comment this out again. And I should have left that alone. Let's just make this contact ID equals 11 because we're not updating, we're just gonna do a post like this, save. Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna go like this. Train and simple, and I'm gonna say print. And look what it did. Yay! It took the current value, it worked. Oh, it's always amazing to me when these work, right? It took the current value in my record of class of 2014, it added a year to it, 2015, and it printed it out. Sweet. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use that now that we figured out how to do it, and we're going to put that in here. We're going to update it. So we're going to make this, we're going to call this condat, meaning contact data, right? So instead of echoing it, we're going to assign it to variable condat, and then condat is going to be used to update the contact record. So I'm going to go back here and do this. Go back to our post for whatever record it happens to send it rather than contact ID 11, and I'm going to hit save, and now let's try it. So if I go to my record now and I run this, because remember I just echoed it, I didn't actually update it, but now if I run it from my record it should actually update it. So I'm going to apply an action, and I'm going to say send an HTTP post, and you'd think one of these days I'd remember to get this before I did that. Copy. Here we go. Put it in here and hit save. Apply to actions to Kim Snyder. Host parameter is null. What does that mean? Let's see if it updated. Custom field. No. Why did it not update? Okay, hang on. Let's go look. So we know it all works. Oh, let's see here. I got it. Condat needs to be an array, and it's not. Okay, so here's what it needs to be. let's do this. It needs to look like this. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste this. So let me just describe what I mean by an array. This is an array. So number one, we know it's array because we say it's an array. And inside that, we have what we call a key pair. I think that's what we call it. So here's the key, date field name, and in date field name is this. And you can have many of these in an array. But anyway, this is what it's supposed to look like. So what we need to do is we need to assign this to a different variable. So we'll just call this year plus 1, like that. So now we've taken this whole thing and we put it in year plus 1, and that's what we're going to put in here. Done. That should work. So now when we update this, we're going to get our array in there, and this should work. Let's try it. Okay. Yes, we know. So we're going to try again. Select an action. Apply actions. And we're going to oh yeah, it's getting late. Oh dear. URL. What's this? Okay. Apply. Fingers crossed. Oh, host parameter is null. Really? Does that mean you didn't update again? No. Heck. Okay, well I'm going to take a little break here, and I'm going to figure out why this is not working, and then I'll come back to you guys with the solution. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to figure it out with the screen share rolling, and if you don't want to watch how I figure it out, I'll edit out the long pauses, but if you don't want to watch how I figure it out, then just skip to the end to get to the solution. But I think for a lot of people, this is as instructive as the answer, because if you've never programmed before or very little, you may not know like how to get unstuck. And so just seeing how I get unstuck may be really, really useful, even if it makes this video a lot longer than I intended. So here we go. I'm going to work on getting unstuck. Okay. So generally what I do when I'm stuck, the first thing I do is I start printing things. So I'm going to, the contact thing is where we're failing. But in the meantime, I want to see, and I'm gonna go back to that. Remember that pre thing where we dumped our array, which was this right here. We're gonna use this again. So so right here, I'm going to dump condat and see what it says. So let's save that and let's run it. And I think what would be interesting would be to run it from here, because I think we're going to see, I think it'll print the results here actually, and if it does, that would be kind of helpful. Otherwise we'll go back and do it to the browser, but save, and apply. See what it says. Host parameter is null. Meaning, you know, let's try something else. So, this isn't going to update, obviously. Still 2014. Now, I wonder what would happen if instead, because we seem to be working pretty well before when we were using this contact ID here set to 11 instead of this post ID, I thought. So let's try this and see. So first of all, we'll just see what we get when we go, wrong browser, when we go here and just hit refresh. So here, at this point, we're doing two things. We've got contact ID just set to 11. So I'm not pulling the post ID. So I'm automatically doing it, and I'm not updating. I'm just printing. Okay. So let's do this. So, and what this tells me is that when at least done that way, it's properly figuring out the date. So the question is, uh, oops, the question is where is it failing? And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this out, and now I'm going to run it with contact 11 and see if it updates. So if I do this and I save it, and I say, now let's run this, refresh. The date's going to stay the same this time. Okay, but let's see what happened here. It's going to be the same because it was still 2014 in this record. And hopefully, we'll see if it changed it to 2015. It did. So what this tells me is everything is working. This is working. See, if I run it again, next it's going to update to 2016. Watch. Okay, so I'm going to hit refresh, and this time it'll change to 2016 because in the record it's 2015. So refresh, there it is, change to 2016, and then now if I refresh here, it's going to be class of 2016. Okay, so what we just figured out by doing that is, see, 2016. It's incrementing by 1 every time. That where our problem is not with any of this, but rather, I should probably be able to take that out, but instead I'll just comment it out for now, in case we need that again. Okay, so all of this works. What, including this, where we're getting messed up is this post ID. With this, I want contact ID equal to 11. This is what's broken right here. Make sure these are the same. They are. They have to be. Okay, well let's take out, all I know to do is let's take out this and see what happens. Oh, you know what else I should do? Let's do this. Remember I told you, whenever the best way to figure out what's going on is print. Okay, so let's do this. Comment that out so it's not updating anything. But do we have any echoes in here? No. So we have this. So let's echo it. Let's just see if it's getting 11. So we'll do it like this. Contact ID. Save. Okay, and now again, what we're going to do is we're going to run this thing on this record like this. See what we get back. Apply an action. Send an HTTP post. Send it to this URL. Hit save. Apply. Now, see, I said echo the contact ID. And it's echoing 11, which is my contact ID. So now we know that part is correct. Alright, I'm going to try this one more time. Since all I did was take out the int, meaning the integer, can't imagine that that's it, but it definitely has contact ID is set at 11, which is identical to what we had here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out. I'm going to leave that like this, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to uncomment this, and let's try it. See if it increments. So just to remind ourselves where, oops, wrong browser, where we are, I have that field, set to come on, load. Alright, let's just look at this together. It's currently set at 2016. Let's run it. See if it works. Send an HTTP post. Send it here. Hit save. Apply actions. Yes. I believe this time it worked. Okay, it must have been that int. Let's look. Custom field. And 2017. Yeah! Awesome. Alright, took us a while, but we got there. So, but really good, I hope. See, I had to take this int out, and now everything works. So, really good example for you of, like, baby coders like us, you know, how we figure out and learn, really, because learning the API and PHP and how to do this stuff is just an iterative process, like you just saw, of kind of logically isolating things and trying to figure out, you know, where the error is and then figuring out how to fix them. So at the end, this is what our script looked like. We connect to the Infusionsoft API. We we want to set the field class of 0. That's the API name with an underscore. We get the contact ID from the post. We can take this out. That was for testing only. We put that current date. We put the current date in a little more friendly format than the Unix format. Then we go to Infusionsoft and we find out what's currently in that class of field, and we put that in a variable called contacts. Then we say if that variable or if that field is empty, then we're going to update it with today's date. If not, we're going to update it with today's date or with the value that's in there plus 1. And then we actually go and using updateCon method, we actually update the record for that contact ID with that condat. So that's it. That's our script. Yeah. And that answers. Now, I know it took me a long time to do that. And you're saying, really? That's super simple? And it is actually, you know, because I'll tell you, once you write this, I mean, I had to figure out the thing that took so long really was figuring out the incrementing by a year. But you know, once you do things like this, you'll reuse this over and over and over and over again. And you know, if you just want to think about value, If you wanted to pay someone to write this for you, you know, someone could charge you anywhere from a couple $100 to $1,500 to write a little script like this for you. And if you want to have an add-on, an Infusionsoft add-on that does it for you, and you're willing to pay $100 a month for that, then you can do that too. But for me, something like this, I would much, much rather um, figure out how to do it myself. And not because I'm just trying to save the money, but because I have total control over this. I can tweak this. If I wanted to make this 1 year and 1 day, I could do that. As long, if I have to pay, if I pay someone to write the script, or I'm using an add-on, then every time I want to change it, I got to go back to them. So anyway, that's it. That's my very long video that I thought was going to be 20 minutes on how to put a date in a custom field and then increment that date by 1 year every time the HTTP post gets called. So just to let you know, I do have here's the plug. I do have a course, which is the Infusionsoft API for Beginners Learning Lab that we do once a month. And we have preview webinars for that course twice a month. They are online on GoToWebinar, and you can register for those on my website, which is trainandsimple.com. So if you're at all interested in learning the API, your first step would be to sign up for the webinar. And then if after the webinar you think it's something that you would like to do, then we can take it to the next step. But I appreciate you watching, especially this long of a video. And if I can answer any questions for you or help you in any way, as always, please feel free to let me know how I can do that. Thanks, you guys.